How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with your host, The Savior. And today I have something quite interesting to talk about. A game that will end Ubisoft. Well, maybe not. But this game is actually developed by quite a few ex-Ubisoft developers. And I was lucky enough to actually see this game at Tokyo Game Show last year, which doesn't even feel that long ago. But yeah, I actually got to sit down and have a discussion with some of the developers, which was super cool and a very nervous, scary experience for me, as that was my first time going to a press event. Now, for big games like this, okay, I like to do a new series that I'm starting on my channel, basically discussing the reviews before the actual early review that I create drops, okay? Because basically there's a lot to talk about with games, and I use this type of video to dissect what the game actually is, what the reception of the gaming community is surrounding this game and all that kind of stuff, because a discussion about a video game can completely change based on early access content versus release. I mean, you can look at games like Dragon Age as a prime example of that. A lot of people were very positive to begin with, but then when it actually released, suddenly, oh no, it's actually filled with a lot of, well...
Your hair is so bright in the sunlight. Sorry, it's just really pretty.
Oh, thanks.
Are you blushing?
No. I mean, yeah. You try moving rocks with your mind.
They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay. Any reason you can't just apologize?
Sometimes people say, oops, sorry, and hope that fixes it. But they just want to get the whole thing over with. Trust me, I know. But pulling a barb, you sweat a little. Makes you think about it a little more. Shows the other person you mean it.
What if they mean it when they say they're sorry, though?
And that's the other reason. Some people mess up and get all dramatic. They make it about them. Oh, you know, I didn't mean it right. I'd never do that on purpose.
Journalists, game journalists, because they actually play games. Did you know that, yeah, they really play video games? And I do understand this, you know, with early access coverage, I understand how it works. You only get shown a tiny slice of a game, but also we have to understand that that's just how the industry is now. So, you know, do your own research. Become a wise one today by subscribing, by the way, but do, you know, a varied amount of research, because a lot of people are paid off. But the reason why I want to cover this game is because it's truly something quite different and interesting, and this is still quite an indie game. Not many people are talking about it, so I think it is worth highlighting why that is and what the Eternal Strands reviews are going to say about this game. You know, that's what I like to do at the end of this video, give you my prediction of where the actual, you know, Metacritic score will be for this game and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into this Eternal Strands reviews discussion and find out what I actually think at the end of the video, if this game is going to do well or not. So like I said, this game pretty much isn't getting much attention, which is quite astonishing. And I think that's because a lot of people rebounded off of the art style of Dragon Age, and it does have a similar art style to it, but this game is actually very different. So let's find out what this actually is. Well, this is basically taking inspirations from many games. Mostly, I would say, it's Zelda Breath of the Wild, okay? Mixed in with some Shadow of the Colossus, some Dragon Age, and some Assassin's Creed actual gameplay, the new Assassin's Creed. Anyway, this is a physics game first, and that's what first caught my eye. If you know anything about me, I absolutely love physics in gaming. I miss the days of, you know, GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption 1, and just older games where you could just play around with physics. It was an actual integral part of the gameplay. Now it's just a gameplay feature instead of it actually being built upon and added as an actual gameplay mechanic, and that's what this game is trying to do, which I really love. I love that in Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I always wish they pushed it a little bit further, you know, like setting up your camp. But this is a combat focused game first, okay? When you are going to be fighting lots of different bosses. I think there's 9 big bosses in total. And something truly special about this game is it actually has dynamic weather seasons, okay? So the seasons will change, the weather effects will change, and because this is a physics-based game, this is actually going to change how your elemental magic interacts with the enemies and with the environment, which I think is such a cool detail. So now let's get into the deeper details that some people will probably not know about this game, as I did have, you know, insider information by actually talking to the devs and all that stuff, and then give you my prediction for the Eternal Strands reviews at the end of the video. And I will be making my Eternal Strands review video very shortly, so look out for that. Now, the hack and slash combat isn't that satisfying, sadly, to play, and I will be playing more of it before release. It's very Assassin's Creed inspired, but what I love about the actual gameplay is just the physics nature of it. Like I said, you have the ice, you have the fire, and you have telekinesis, okay? And I do think that this game isn't getting enough attention, which is quite sad. I think, like I said, it's just for art style and the fact that people aren't really interested in this type of experience after Dragon Age, and we've got things like Zelda. It's also a much smaller studio, like 70 people working there, but they are professionals, you know, these aren't new people, you know, this is their first time doing a game. They've all worked on big stuff, many of them coming from Ubisoft, and I am a little bit worried that it's going to be quite grindy. There is a lot of resource collection in this, and I'm not quite sure what that's going to be used for as of yet, until I get further hands-on and stuff, but still, the actual core gameplay is just super fun to play around with because it's all physics-based and all based around your magical elements, okay? So, you know, simple things like setting fire to an enemy, just like in the good old days of Far Cry 2, if you set a fire in the middle of the woods, shit's gonna go down, okay? The whole forest is literally going to catch on fire. The same thing with ice, you can use it to literally freeze enemies, to, you know, hold down actual parts of their body, you know, like a limb, for example. You can use it to create like a shield wall to block off enemies, or, you know, as a bridge or something like that. The telekinesis ability is so cool because you can just pick up enemies and yeet them off the side of the cliff, or you can literally plant down your telekinesis and then launch ice spells and fire magic into it, which will, you know, project it forwards, or use it to teleport yourself to then do like a massive grand slam attack, like your goddamn WWE steroided up Logan Paul or something, which is quite funny. You know, stuff like that makes the gameplay really fun. I'm just not sure about the actual hack and slash nature of it as of yet, and where all of these resources go. But the fundamentals of everything being physics-based is super cool. Everything is breakable. You can chop down a wood, get the resources from that, you know, like an apple tree, for example. Very much like Zelda. I love the attention to detail as well of all these different physics objects interacting with each other. You know, if you cast magic onto the pool of water, you know, steam will actually rise and stuff like that. Smoke will arise from the fire and all that kind of stuff, which I really like. A big inspiration for them that they keep repeating is Shadow of the Colossus. Like I said, there are going to be big 9 bosses to take down, and you can scale them. You can climb up literally anything, you know, in this game, just like in Zelda, and the same thing with the bosses, and they will react to where you are climbing and stuff like that. Also, there's no weak points where you have to target. You actually have to figure it out yourself. So it's very dynamic combat where you can, you know, choose to target a limb, freeze them, you know, set them on fire, all of that kind of stuff, which I think is pretty cool. Also, a big thing that some people are going to like, some people won't, is the fact that this is not open world, okay? This is going to be, you know, hub-based open sections, okay? And I think that's quite cool because they wouldn't have been able to maybe implement the kind of dynamic weather changing season effects if it was completely open world. I love the fact that that does change, and it will, you know, change how you actually play this game. You know, your abilities to actually traverse the world and find and explore. But you have to remember that this is not your typical RPG. So what I mean by that is it's not very story focused, okay? And there's not going to be heavy focus on choice and consequences like in something like Kingdom Come Deliverance or something like that. This is very much a combat action game with some RPG elements, okay? And one thing that I did notice that I don't really like is how they are doing dialogue, okay? So yes, you have multiple choices. Do they actually matter in the end? I don't think so. Also, they kind of went quite lazy with it, I'll say. They went for this kind of comic book kind of manga style dialogue system where, you know, they basically don't want to animate the characters. And I understand, you know, some games don't have the budget for that. It is an indie game, but it does take you out of the immersion. And I understand why some people might be turned off by the art style, even though I think at times it does look good. Other times it can look rather childish. This is definitely not a dark fantasy game. The gameplay itself is fun, but will that be enough to actually hook the people if there's not, you know, a super emphasis on story here and choices, and the RPG system is kind of on the lighter side. Like I said, this is much more combat focused, but the bosses are something to behold. And although we have seen that with Dragon's Dogma 2 and other games like Shadow of the Colossus now at this point, they don't have this physics kind of Zelda-inspired Breath of the Wild mechanics in it, where it is all around those physics systems and those 3 elemental magics. And of course, these magic abilities, they will be upgradable. You'll be able to use them and unlock different abilities. It's not going to just be standard these 3, but the way that you can combine them, that's what's interesting to me. And that's what I want to see more of in gaming. You know, I'm really passionate about creative thinking outside the box type gaming, and having an emphasis on physics again and elemental magic, even though that's kind of basic, the amount of different abilities and combinations that you can pull off, so it's going to be different for everyone, that's what's exciting for me, and that's why Eternal Strands should be an interesting game, but I don't think it's got quite the interest of the people, of the gamers as of yet, so I just thought I would highlight it today. Also, yes, this game does seem to look kind of child or family friendly. Don't be fooled, because this actually looks to be quite a challenging experience, okay? But overall, my thoughts and impressions of Eternal Strands are that this game is actually trying to do something unique. Yes, it's borrowing elements from Zelda, you know, and it's borrowing elements from Shadow of the Colossus, but it's doing something different with its emphasis on physics, okay? And physics is a massive, you know, immersive point for me in gaming. If a whole game is built around it, I'm not sure how long that you know, kind of gimmick will last. If they actually pull it off in absolutely everything, then I think it might be good. But is the story going to, you know, catch people's attention? I just don't know about that. And if the exploration is going to be immersive enough and interesting enough, and you're not just dumping all of these resources into, you know, building up your town, which is kind of predictable at this point. So look out for my Eternal Strands review coming very shortly. That will be with more of my hands-on gameplay and stuff like that, so I'll let you know as soon as that drops. So for Eternal Strands reviews, what do I think they will actually be? I think this game is going to be kind of in the middle of the road, okay? Just like Immortals Rising. I don't think that this game will have the mass appeal of something like Zelda Breath of the Wild, simply because it might not pull off the atmosphere and charm as much, and the story, the, you know, nostalgia isn't there. This is a new IP, a new universe, and all that kind of stuff from what I know of, and I just don't think people are as interested, especially of this kind of art style after Dragon Age. But if the gameplay actually feeds into exploration and it's not all combat focused, and they use these tools to actually make the world itself more immersive with its storytelling and, you know, the characters that you discover and stuff like that, then I think this could be something special. But at the moment, I think this is going to be a middle of the road type experience, which is a shame, because it truly does seem like these developers are trying to step outside the, you know, AAA space, and are trying to create something unique. They seem really passionate about that when I talk to them, but I do think that this is going to sit around a 70 or a 60 on Metacritic and stuff like that. And if you want to put a number on it, which I don't, it's probably going to be, you know, a 7 or an 8, okay? When there is a potential here for it to actually be, you know, a really high level game, I think this is gonna have my interest, but I don't know if it's going to stick with me as much as some other games. Let me know if you're looking forward to this game or not, and what you think about this game, and I'll see you in the Eternal Strands review coming up soon. Have a great day, stay wise, and peace out.
All my life, I was dreaming about becoming a point. To do it alongside a renowned weaver band, it's a chance to make history.
The Surgeborn. They've had us on our back foot for decades. Ever since our people have been in crisis.
Our weaver band is here to help. We're ready for anything. no matter what happens.
Best to assume the worst. This could mean an all-out war.
You sure she's ready for all of this?
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed us 27 years ago.
Let's not lie to each other. I like you.
Can't say the feeling's mutual. I still believe in the dream of the Enclave. If it takes us to restore it, I'm up for that challenge.